Did it again. Fuck. Sorry. I don't know why it's doing that today. I can't get it to go back to the beginning of the song for some reason today.
Who cares?
No one does, really.
Just keep it going.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's just go. I know you were recording that too. That's fine. I have no shame around my incompetence. Welcome, everybody. That's right. Golf spiritual leader and Coach Tim are back for another episode. 194, I believe, is what this is.
That's it. Confirming their humanity.
Yep. Always a pleasure to be with you, Coach.
And you, sir.
O'ConnorGolf.ca. And, of course, this program is brought to you by JW Apparel, Inc., offering golfers of all ages quality apparel from head to toe. Each brand delivers great quality and styling for all weather conditions. Also, great accessory lines and so much more. Check it out at jwapparelinc.com. And, of course, let's take a second here and acknowledge that almost from the beginning, TaylorMade has been supporting this podcast. You and I we're two lucky fellows that we get to enjoy.
Absolutely.
It's crazy how much. We not only do we get to enjoy, but how much joy we get from playing the best product from TaylorMade. TaylorMade TP5 and TP5X, the golf ball trusted by players like Johnson, McIlroy, Morikawa, Henderson, Glassman, and O'Connor. I love the fact that we're now part of the read. To learn more about the latest TaylorMade products, visit TaylorMadeGolf.ca. In a second or two, I'm going to introduce you to my brother again. And it's funny, he had the same reaction that a lot of people do when they see the carbon wood in person for the first time. Because, most people have just seen the commercials. Everyone's like, oh, that's cool.
Well, that red face is so neat. I mean, it's different, right?
It's something different.
Oh, my gosh. In the radical world, fashion-forward world of golf.
No, it is. Absolutely. I mean, we talked about this recently about the very first, what we used to call them metal drivers, whatever was that tiny TaylorMade burner, whatever was the size of
Pittsburgh Persimmon.
That's it. It was the size of a hybrid now. But for all the TaylorMade, if you want to get fit, we always recommend you check it out. Check out TaylorMade products and TaylorMade clubs at TaylorMadeGolf.ca and book in a fitting if we ever get a golf season. Today's the 27th of April. We released the podcast on Fridays as usual. We've been recording them at different times this year. So I played golf 4 days ago on a Sunday, and it was 20 degrees. It was actually the day after you had your first round.
Yep.
Which I want to get into a little bit because the day before I played, it was brutal.
'Twas.
And now 4 days later, it's like 0.
Exactly. I know it was like Saturday was balmy in comparison to today.
So did you get an entire round in?
I did. Yeah, it was 6 degrees, windy as heck, occasionally misting, and the ball was like hitting just say it like it is. It was like hitting a sock of shit. I don't care what brand it was. I mean, I hit a 6-iron from like 140 short.
I find it interesting, though. You said it was windy as heck, but you're willing to say a sack of shit. Where is the line with you?
I know it's so blurry. It has to do with Roman Catholicism.
That's what I was going to say. What does Jesus say about that? Doesn't matter. So but you finished it. See, the thing is, you finished the round because you're a true golf nerd. Today is the first time, and David's been visiting me for years here in Toronto, and I said to him, because we've canceled the round today. It's brutal. This is the first time we've ever been shut out, and it's just because it's 0 feels like minus something.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to go indoors. We're going to go to Burlington Indoor Golf, BIG. And we're going to hang out at Casey's place for a couple hours because we have to do something golfy today. We can't just be with each other.
We just can't talk it. Yeah, we got to go something golfy. Are you going to wear your new outfits? To do something golfy?
We're going to do some golfy stuff today at Casey's place.
Yeah.
My brother pointed out a second ago, he is not a psychologist, but he is trained in the world of psychology. And we've had David on before. And, you know, one of the things I think is valuable is a guy like David who deals in training and he works with big, you know, executives, and he has a real sense of how, you know, communication works. And he's also a golf nerd. He's an STD. And I like David's perspective on the game because he's not only a seeker of information around golf, and like a lot of people listening, but he has a perspective in, you know, the world of psychology and why golf does to us what it does to us. And I don't know how else to introduce you except
Good morning, Howard.
I've known you my whole life. I've looked up to you. Even though, was it you that saved me from one of my brothers threw me off a step? Was it Stephen or was that you?
I think I did.
You did.
Yes.
But we've gotten along pretty well ever since then.
Yes.
I was young.
What's the age difference?
8 years.
8 years.
But I was little, and he threw me, like he dared me to jump off something, and I hurt myself, and everyone got mad at him.
Yeah. Well, I don't see him because of the magic of Zoom today. So you're kind of a disembodied spirit to me, David.
Thank you. I'll try to speak in a disembodied voice.
Yeah, yeah. But I am very aware of your aura.
So, knowing what you know about our show, and knowing, you know, we've talked a lot about golf. You know, I picked up David at the airport yesterday. Yeah, a 3:00 flight in from Calgary. We went right to a driving range, like within half an hour of landing. You know, we got 4 layers on, we have hoodies on, because it's so cold. He said to me, "I feel like the Stay Puffed guy because we can't swim."
Exactly.
But having said all that, we got the jumbo bucket. We got the like. Do you know that bucket that you need?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You need 2 people to carry. That was ours.
Do you have like little blisters today, or did you have too many layers on to even?
No, that was a small day at the range. We were okay.
But so let's just get right into it. You know, golf. You know, again, the psychology of golf and how it affects people. Why do you think, again, and you have the perspective of how golf affects you, but what is it about the game that exposes us so much?
I'm not sure even where to start. I think golf isn't just something you do. Golfing or being a golfer is somebody who you are. And I think that's different than other sports. I spent a bit of the winter in Mexico, and I golf and I play pickleball. I identify as a golfer, but I wouldn't tell people I'm a pickleball player.
Right.
It doesn't have the same set of relationship. So golf is in that way not just a thing. The fancy philosophers would call it an ontology. It's a big word, but it's like who you are. And that's why it's so all-encompassing, but it's also why it makes us so fragile. Because when we do badly, I think what's at stake is just not the game that day, year-round. What you could put at stake is your whole being. And that's, I think, the dangerous thing. It's also the lovely thing, too.
So I guess we're affected by it because, using your words, because in that world, we just take it personally because it's about us and our person.
It can be if you let it, absolutely.
Yeah. There was a phrase. Was it you we were talking about uncoupling, or was it somebody else? But it's like hard for us to uncouple from golf because we can't. I admire people that don't take it personally because they're able to detach themselves from the identity as a golfer. They can just play the game and enjoy it and go home.
Let me give you an example that's not golf, that's the same phenomena. 2 people get into a small fender bender. For some people, it's, it's just a fender, let's exchange information. But every once in a while, you get the kind of road rage because people can't separate themselves from their bumper.
Go deeper on this, Sir David, please.
Be careful what you identify with.
Right.
And in a sense, it's okay to identify as a golfer because, again, golfing isn't just a thing you do. It isn't just a sport. I think for a lot of people, our generation of playing the game, and as you get older, that becomes for a lot of people their primary identity. So you've retired or you're not working as much. Golfing is an identity you take to your grave. Working at Joe's Tire as, controller, that ends at a certain day. But, certainly our father, I mean, he golfed till the summer he died.
6 weeks before I golfed with him Labor Day of 2006, and 6 weeks later. In fact, he was still somewhere in his last few days. We were still talking about his backswing.
Oh yeah. Well, David, I'm glad you brought our fathers into it, and it seems to me that every time the Glassman O'Connors get together, there's always this father thing that we bring up. But my dad was the same as Lou. My dad, his name was Dennis, and he just so identified with being a golfer. And when it was going well, he walked like Rory McIlroy down the fairway, standing up, all that good stuff. And was it good and well? You could just tell. He just slumped right over. And it wasn't that much different, frankly. And again, David, I'll ask you to bounce up this. It wasn't that much different than being at the dining room table as, a young adult, and you get into some debate. And every once in a while I would say something that might, contradict his argument a little bit or just come at it a different way. And you could see how it weighed on him in terms of his identity as someone who could do things competently, express views that he considered right. And if I threatened them, it would be almost injurious to him.
I'm not licensed to do therapy now, Tim, but if you wanted to call me after the show, I could work that out. It's interesting talking about fathers. What I think was interesting about our father, he was actually at his best when he was a golfer. That was his best identity.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, he had, kind of a varied nature, but as a golfer, that was his best, like his identity is, Sweet Lou on the golf course.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So golf, we can be all sorts of things, but golf is something that lets us be what we want to strive for. My learning about golf this winter playing with my partner, was mainly about being a better human being on the golf course, being in a better mood, being a better playing partner, being grateful.
Right.
So,
is that because she threatened you? You can tell us. We all have women in our lives. Was there a point where that person was like, you know what, David?
Pretty much.
Was there an intervention?
There was an intervention. And it wasn't a single intervention, but it was learning over a long time this winter to really be grateful.
Yeah. Timmy, what do you want to say?
Well, it's really interesting. It's obviously there's all kinds of different experiences with this game, and particularly how we identify with it and respond to it, or maybe more specifically react to it. My father would, if it wasn't going well, he wouldn't speak his sentences would get terse, his posture would change. And I've seen that in many, many golfers, is that they can't make this separation in terms of when they play badly, it doesn't have ramifications for their self-worth or how other people judge them. And that's when people basically lose their shit playing golf, is they just start to almost panic. And so it's just amazing the varied differences. And so that's the challenge I think that the game poses to us, is when we play, and most of the time we don't play to our up to what we perceive to be our A game. Most of the times we're nowhere there. But how do we balance that with knowing, if I'm not playing great golf, it doesn't mean I'm also a shitty person.
Well, I think you have to have the distinction to understand that you aren't your golf game, right?
Exactly.
All of these problems are a collapse of domains.
But to your point that because golfers, again, versus, people that play bocce or pickleball or whatever, really identify, and you make a good point that, if I play tennis from time to time, even if I'm an elite tennis player with I don't know that you have the same anxiety and anguish that golfers get. I'm going to read some stuff from one of the decade guys that I work with about his first tournament experience, and you can just read the anguish. And listen, if anyone has heard any of the shows we've done, many times Tim and I, separately and together, have talked about how the depths of the sorrow and the frustration, and people who don't golf would just think that was silly. And so we can't separate the identity, and I guess a lot of the things we've talked about on this show that are basically, how do you become a better partner? How do you enjoy the game without punching the inside of your car like I've done several times?
Well, I think that's it. It's not automatic.
No,
it's not obvious. I mean, I think the habit of collapsing who you are with what just happened is a habit in life. I think very few people are equipped, or as a matter of habit, do that well. That's why, you have a small failure at work, you get a bit of negative feedback from somebody or other, and rather than paying attention to, the other person, what just happened, you're all caught up in, woe is me, I'm a terrible person. And I think people who are committed to performance, actually, as a matter of habit, are really good at distinguishing the two. I don't think, and this is speculation because I've never played at an elite level. I know Howard, and I've seen some good golfers, but I think ultimately that's the difference between somebody who's physically good and somebody who's elite. That they do have the ability not to become crestfallen, with a bad shot. I mean, Howard, you were pointing out the other day, mentioning one of the pros that hit a bad shot, swore, and then a couple seconds later seemed to be past that. Right? They're not stewing on what just happened.
Tim, you deal with a lot of guys, men predominantly, and I mean, a lot of the coaching that Tim does, yes, is around mental processes, but it's also, I think, again, I know you're not a licensed therapist either, but I think a lot of what you do is sort of listening and being therapeutic with golfers to try and talk them out of, being crestfallen and hating themselves over a golf score.
Yeah, exactly. What comes to me is, when David was talking, is the two words, consciousness and awareness. And as David talked about, if you have an interaction at work, it's not much different than something that happens on the golf course. You plunk one in the water, you got a good score going, and you make double or something. And how do you react? What happens in your gut? And often it's just like David said, we start to have this, I'm a bad business person, and I'm a bad golfer. So what I'm talking about consciousness is, this is happening. I'm plunged back into it right now, and now I'm aware of it. And okay, wait a sec, what do I need to do? Let go of that. Goodness, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole of beating the shit out of myself and going into the story. So what could I do differently? I could maybe start chatting with the guys I'm playing with. I could look around at the surroundings, listen to the birds. So I think it takes a degree of maturity as we go through life, become more aware of those things. But also, part and parcel of that, I think, is a consciousness of what's happening, which I guess is another way of saying awareness, and being able to respond rather than react. David, you could react to that.
Yeah, David, you can react to that.
I'm thinking you made me want to reflect here, Tim. This may be a little bit to the side of what you're saying, but I think I can connect it. We're talking about golfers that, in a sense, react like this is their whole being questioned. But actually, I think for the most part, it's just the opposite. I tell a story. This is a little bit of a made-up story in some of my workshops about why in certain domains we're willing to accept feedback and not others. And I use a somewhat true example from Howard, and I say, look, if I was your supervisor or manager and you were walking past my office and I said, Tim, shut the door, come in, sit down, I've got some feedback for you. Everybody's universal reaction to that scenario was, my gut would be roiling. We all know that corporate come in, I've got feedback. And in that domain, we almost hate feedback. That's not the relationship we have. But what I've always experienced in the little bit of golf coaching I've got is just the opposite. Now, Howard may not remember this, but some years ago we were on the driving range, and he was watching me swing, and he said something to the effect, "You look like a frenzied monkey."
No, Howard didn't say that. That was old Howard.
That was
not
old Howard.
GSL. That was pre-GSL years.
Pre-enlightenment.
That's right.
But the point was, I could only smile and be curious to know what he was going to tell me. So when you have a commitment to performance, feedback shows up as a contribution. And I think for the most part, the golfers who progress hold that attitude, that they are more committed to what they need to learn than preserving their ego. And I love that about golf, because it's, one domain of our life where we can hear the bad news, because the bad news isn't bad. It's informative.
Well, I don't listen. That was a different version of Howard. This version would never say something so crass, but that is funny, and it was true. But I think what David said is just struck me as, I know personally that when I'm given criticism, I may not always have taken it the right way, but I've never balked at somebody helping me out with my golf game.
No.
And saying, hey, you could do this differently. But I would tell you, I think a lot of golfers can relate to what you just said, because golfers are all looking for, some secret. Do you have a secret? Like, I saw a guy, Ralph Bauer, last Monday. I had this great lesson with him.
Saw Ralph finally, eh?
I saw Ralph.
Oh, great.
But so Ralph gave me a couple of drills, but I already had a putting mirror. But just because Ralph was using this sort of small hole that's portable and an alignment thing, I went on home and I was like ordering them right away, and I have them coming like
prime.
Yeah, pardon?
Prime next day.
Exactly. I must have this putting thing the next day, because I'm so open to, like, whatever you have that I could that I think could make my stupid golf game better. But most of us, David, don't have that. Don't hold that in our regular lives to the same enthusiasm.
Right, which is why we love golf. Like, I think, if you go to sort of this basic Maslow, we really do have a will or an interest in actualization. In most parts of our lives, we don't see for ourselves that we can do it. So part of what makes golf so addictive for the people who are addicted is the sense of, look at all the possibility. Right? To the end, right? That's the thing that I admire about golf.
Yeah, but I'm going to argue with you, David, that I would say a large majority of golfers don't see golf as evidence of the capability or opens the window of possibilities. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people that come to me and who I talk to feel stuck, and that they, how come I suck? How come no matter how much I effing practice, how many lessons I take, how come I'll never get this game? Howard's probably smiling because he's remembering the intervention that George McNamara and then he did because I
was smiling because I thought you were going to actually say the word fuck as opposed to just dance around it. I'm like, is he going all the way today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just agree with you for the sake, but I do agree with you for probably many golfers, most golfers. We were talking about this last night. I think a lot of golfers live in twin moods of they're okay, like they're peaceful about their game, but they're also resigned, not like unhappy, but they're shooting mid-90s. And they don't see much will change, but they're not upset about it. And I think that's the recipe for I'll continue to golf till the day I die, but they don't see that, practicing more or getting coaching would make any difference.
Right. So
technically I would call that tranquilized resignation.
Ooh.
Right? He's trained as a psychologist. You and I aren't coming up with that phrase. I don't have tranquilized. What? I don't have that. I can't even remember it. You said it 1 second ago.
I got tranquilized on the weekend. Whoa.
You can be a lousy golfer at a certain moment, but if you're ambitious to improve, help will show up because you're looking for it.
Right.
I mean, so many people who never even catch on to playing golf at all will explain to us, to you, to Tim, why it isn't they don't like golf, or why they'll never learn it, or they go out twice, find they can't play the game instantly, and go, I guess I can't learn that. And once you make that decision, guess what? You won't.
100%.
And what you said, because we were talking about this last night, as David said, but you're right. We're just talking to the golfers that we all know that are seekers, that want to have improvement, etc. There are a group of golfers, and maybe more than we would care to admit, that maybe it's not resignation, but it's a certain they just don't seem to enjoy them. I don't understand it, but they just seem to enjoy themselves.
Well, those are the guys you see on men's night at Blue Springs, and I got to think at Glencairn. They come out, they have more than a few pops, and it's about having good time,
Yes.
and they don't effing care if they shoot 95. It's there for the camaraderie and having a good time. And you got to love it. And actually, Fred Shoemaker, there we go. There's the first mention of Fred today.
Yeah.
He said there was a study done, I believe it was in the UK, that asked in terms of male golfers, who was the happiest? About 15 handicapper. And for women, it was in the low 20s. So the most happy golfers. So these are golfers who, they're okay with the scores they shoot. They don't need to shoot in the 70s to be happy.
Again, I admire them. Obviously I can't really. I was smiling too. You're talking about the guys on men's night that like to, have some beers after the round, during the round and such. And I get that. I know that golf's supposed to be for the camaraderie too, but my thinking is I've just spent 4.5 hours with you people. Why do we have to spend more? Haven't I just spent enough time?
Haven't I listened to you enough?
Do I have to go and sit and have a burger and watch and have more time? Anyway, David, always we appreciate your perspective.
Nice talking to you both. Tim, maybe we'll get to golf. I'm back in August, so we'll try a game.
That would be lovely.
Maybe
I'd enjoy that. Maybe
on.
I could get my brother Pat, and we could have an
have
O'Connor Glassman
absolutely
brotherly match.
I'd love that, man. And I was gonna say, I appreciate your perspective, and I'm gonna, you're welcome to sit. I'm just gonna turn your mic, or maybe you can go like Johnny Carson, go to the couch. But I appreciate you, and go upstairs. That's good. David Glassman, everybody, making another. I'm sorry. Say that again.
I said really appreciate what you and Tim do.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you're going to give us compliments, we got all the time in the world for that. Don't go away.
Yeah, just make sure you, David. Just make sure you subscribe to us and leave a positive review.
Yeah, exactly. What was that word? Transgression of proactivity. What was it called? What?
Tranquilized resignation.
Tranquilized resignation. I'm going to start throwing that around in my practice.
That's worth putting on a T-shirt.
God damn it. It's just when you think, I'm not even the smartest person I'm just like the third. I have two brothers. I realize I'm the third smartest one. I'm not even close. It's seriously.
I love how you put that. So see how you're a positive person now? Post enlightenment. Before you would say, I'm the dumb one. Now you say, I'm the third smartest.
Exactly. I'm definitely the third smartest.
That's a glass half full of way of looking at it.
I'm a glass half full man.
Man,
Exactly.
I think you could go into any downtown bar and you'd see a number of people who were in a state of tranquilized resignation.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
So I won't, obviously I'm not going to tell you who this is. It's one of the GSL decade dudes. I'll call them the decade dudes. How about that?
I like it, DDs.
The
There
DDs.
you go. See?
There we go. The decade dudes.
The DDs. I came up with that one. You're coming up with the rest of the fancy acronyms. I think I finally came up with one that was okay.
All right, fella. You're doing great. So this is somebody that has listened to our show and engaged my services as a decade consultant, a decade Sherpa, and had his first tournament. I've already talked to him. I've already done the debrief. And I want to bring this up just because of we're talking about, as David said, people, how we identify ourselves as golfers. And this person has a swing coach. He listens to every one of our shows. He's super invested in his game. He hits the ball really well. He moves it with speed. He can, and generally probably shoots in the mid 80s and has wanted to start playing some tournament golf. So we've been meeting around the decade system and how it relates to him. And I got this note, Timmy, and it's just, I'm sure you've had notes like this.
Yep.
Where it goes on and on about the round and how he felt terrible, and there were moments of chaos. And
do you have sad music to play under it as you read it?
I
Maybe
suppose.
some Wagner. It could be Wagner.
Yeah, give me an idea. What would be?
Or a really slow blues. Red House, Jimi Hendrix. There's your choices: Wagner or Jimi Hendrix. Red House.
Oh, hang on a second. Here we go.
Perfect.
I don't know if this is sad or just weird.
No, keep going. It's Sturm und Drang all the way.
Okay. I'll just read you a couple highlights. I got rattled and my focus was shit. Following a bad shot, my mind would race and so would my body. The group I was with told me to take my time on several occasions as they could see me rushing. Bad shots reduced my confidence. I'm going to come back to that in a second. My overall focus dropped to minimal once I was disheartened with my play. Negative self-talk was rampant. The whole day I focused on each bad shot and felt like the day was running away from me. I even dismissed my good ones because they couldn't make the difference since it was running away so badly. If it wasn't a tournament, I probably would have walked off and gone home. This is a grown man who is a really smart guy, and there were some highlights. He talked about how he tried to stay engaged with his group, and he tried to joke and laugh, and I told him, I'll just tell you what I said to him. I said, first of all, just so you know, this will happen again. That's what I said.
Exactly.
He said, it's not one and done. It's what I wrote to him. I said, lots of good stuff. I said, it's what you wrote, I said to him, is so typical of playing tournament golf. I said, I'd be more surprised if this didn't happen to you.
Right.
It would be more of a surprise that you would go out and have a great experience your first time, because I didn't want to tell him beforehand, but that was never in the cards. And the good thing about what he experienced was, and for people listening, maybe get this, it is just what happens to your body under pressure that you can have the best plans. And it's like Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a great plan until you get punched in the face for the first time.
Exactly.
Once that happens, the plan takes a... So I'm going to read you one more thing, but what are your thoughts initially about what I read you?
I completely relate, and I've had many, many conversations with clients and just fellow golfers who've gone through that. Your first tournament, have some of these aspirations. You're excited. It's like going to school for the first time or something. All this stuff is happening, and then it just inevitably the body starts doing stuff that we don't even know what's happening, and we can't access our skill. It's like suddenly golf becomes, which end do I hold the club? And everything you try gets worse, and it's just an inevitable experience. And so everyone wants to transform and go forward, but unfortunately it always sucks. Yeah. We go through tough experiences. It's in all parts of life. You want to go forward and stuff, well, then you got to go through some shit. That's just unfortunately the way it is.
Well, I mean, there's a million cliches that cover this, one of which is, you only grow and learn on when things go not according to plan.
You don't see the light till you've been through the darkness, et cetera, et cetera.
Kick at the darkness till it bleeds daylight, Bruce Coburn.
Ooh, very nice.
Lovers in a Dangerous Time, one of the great lines from any song. I'm just going back to, here's where I really felt bad. And again, as I said to this client, this friend of mine now, I said, you shot a pretty high score. He did. He shot, pretty high. He was in triple digits. And I said, listen, dude, in 2016, only 6 years ago, when I was, again, maybe not scratch, but close to it, I shot 92 in the first round of the Ontario Mid-Am. I said David talked about the possibilities of golf. I reminded this friend, I said, listen, last summer at the end of the year, I shot 87 at the early bird, which was in October. But I said, so last summer I shot 87 and 66. Both of those possibilities are there every time I play. We all can shoot, 30 shots is nothing for an amateur golfer.
Absolutely.
So I told him not to feel bad, but I did say, like we've all had, and it's going to be kind of funny, I think, but we've all had experiences like I'm about to share with you that he had. So it's his first tournament. He has a great range session. First hole, this is what happens. He hits his drive, and he's in his 40s. He hits it far. He said to me, I hit it 320 yards, but into some trees. So he's the very first shot, he pull hooks it, which I told him another thing that happens to all good players or better players is you're going to just have to live with pull hooking shots. It just happens. So he pulls in the trees. Then he told me I should have played backwards, but I tried to go through the trees, and sure enough, it hits a tree and ends up on the second tee box. so it's on the second tee. And there are not one, but two groups waiting on the second tee.
Sorry for laughing, Brendan. Sorry.
No, I don't say his name.
Oh.
I didn't say his name. You did. Okay, I'm going to edit that out. No one heard it. Okay. So he hits it on the tee. There's two groups waiting, and now he's got like a 30-yard pitch shot off the tee box to the next hole, and it just goes downhill from there. He sculls that chip. He blades another one. These guys are watching him.
Exactly.
He hit it over he had a cart path back and forth. Anyway, I felt so bad for him because it's like, listen, man, I've been there. It's like the tournament just started and all of a sudden you're in this whirling. Totally. I said to him, how fast did that first hole feel? He said, I don't even remember. He said, I barely remember playing it. It happened so fast.
So I just got to ask, what was the number that went on the scorecard for hole number one?
Not as big as I thought, only a 7.
Really? Oh, I
know.
I thought it was like 11 or something.
I thought so too. I thought it was going to be 9, 10, but it wasn't.
Okay, that's not so bad. So it's a triple, right?
It was a triple. And anyway, I guess I bring it up to just say that, we're all the same in that these experiences, and I reached out to our friend Paul Doolin, and I was going to be talking to him anyway, but I happened to say, hey, listen, I'm working with this guy, and I read some of this stuff to Paul. I said, what would you tell a player like this? And he gave me a couple things to share, and I thought I'd share it with everyone else. The first thing he said is just remind your player, and I would remind everyone that self-confidence or confidence in general, if you only look for confidence from results, you're going to be disappointed. And self-confidence doesn't come from results. They come from process. And I thought that's so good because most of us don't have our society we're not equipped with delayed gratification anymore.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So I reminded my player that, listen, you're on the right path. And I said, he's got a series of tournaments he's entered. These are all fun tournaments, but they're tournaments. And I said, maybe around the 5th or 6th one, you'll start to feel comfortable. But don't expect it to happen the next one or the next one after that. I said, maybe look for little moments when you're comfortable. But overall, the process, you just have to derive your confidence from putting in, as you would say, putting in your time and putting in your reps. So that was the first thing that Doolin told me. What do you think?
Absolutely. Process is everything because, again, if you come back to it's a cliche of golf, it's the only thing you can really have control over. You have zero control over where the ball is going to go, if it's going to go in the hole, etc. But process is something that you can just delve into, learn more about, and I think that's really at the end of the day what this is about, is the learning that goes on. The score he shot has zero to do with who he is as a human being and as a golfer. But what he learned, he can take forward.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. The second thing that Doolin shared with me, and a few people don't know, Paul's a performance coach, works with tour players. And this kind of goes back again, sort of what Dave was talking about. Like, we golfers identify so much with our game. And one of the things that, you get talked to about all the time, so do I, is, how do I get to be more consistent? And what most golfers mean by that is, how do I get my swing to never break down and be exactly the same all the time? But that's true. But
no, totally.
He said, think about where fun comes from. I said, okay, I know a few things. I know a few places where fun comes from. But he said, for most people, fun comes from uncertainty. Not knowing how it's going to work out is where some of the fun comes from. And I thought it was an interesting thing to remind myself and my guy that, you're not supposed to know. You never know. You hope that you're going to have a good round. You hope that your processes are in place. But you don't know if it's going to be the 66 or the 87.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that where some of the fun comes from? And isn't most of the fun from the adventure of not being 100% sure every time?
Yeah, but it goes against most of our desires. I hate to use the universal we, but we want to control things. We don't want pain. We don't want uncertainty. So in golf, we look for, really is most of the people that come to me for coaching in the mental sphere or with their swings or together, they want to be consistent. It's like the holy grail of golf, but it's not possible. We're just not meant as human beings to be robots like you talked about over and over again. So we desire control, but we can't have it. So really what is about in a different way is how do we adapt to the situation that's going on? I'm standing on the first tee. I can barely get my breath going. My heart's racing like a rabbit. How do I adapt to that? I've got a shot in the trees. I see a little hole here, but what's the adaptation I'm going to make? That to me it's a different way of looking at fun. And to me, that's the fun. That's at the end of the day, one of the things that I love about golf is just making a decision. Okay, what's the wind doing? Where's the bunker? Where's this in location? And so that's part of the adapting process. And to me, that's part of the fun of golf, if you will.
Doolin said something else. I just looked down here. He said, knowledge isn't growth. Experience comes from the adventure, and that's where the growth is. You grow from the experience.
100%.
This person, as I said to him last night, I said, think about this now. Now you know what this feels like.
Yeah.
And, and next time when you're in a situation like you were in the first hole, he said to me after, I said, maybe you'll make the decision to just hit. I said, one of the hardest things to do as a golfer is to look from where you just were and hit back toward that. It just doesn't, it goes against everything we believe in.
Totally.
But I said, had you made that decision, the chaos would have slowed down a little bit. And that's what happens under pressure is that it just becomes, like I say, a whirlwind of nonsense. But, I said, so now every time you're in that situation, you'll have a moment to go, okay, I've been here before. It will feel less threatening. And that's what it's all about. You get knowledge comes from the experience and the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no, like we've said this a million times now, but there is consistency of process and approach. You can make that consistent.
Right. Yeah. So it's, where do we grow from? It's from hard experience. All of us have read all kinds of, my bookshelf is full of cool golf books, Rotella, etc., Harvey Penick, all this wisdom, knowledge that I have, and I pick it up all over the place, as we all do. But in that moment, when stuff is happening, it's the chaos of tournament golf, particularly at your first tournament. We're not logical creatures. We get triggered. Our old stuff happens to us, and then we start doing stuff that, oh my God, that was really a dumb decision. Later, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Because we're creatures of our past and and just all this shit vibrating around, as opposed to, what did Bob Rotella say in this moment? Oh, okay, I should breathe and look around and make a decision. Can I hit this 9 times out of 10 here? Now I'm fucking going for it.
Uh-oh. Now he's mad. I say there's some F words.
It's not
F-bombs.
mad. I mean,
I'm teasing.
I took your invitation.
Listen, you're welcome to swear whenever you want. You know, I will tell you that piece about knowledge coming from experience, especially under tournament conditions. And again, I was talking about this with him last night. I said, like, I've played dozens of tournaments, lots of tournaments in the last 5 years. And it's just been recently that I've stopped trembling. Yep. I mean it, like literally physically shaking on the first tee. It used to take me 3 holes. Now, you know, I've got the trembling under control, but I'm still nervously hitting a ball well into the first hole. You know, last year during the Senior Ontarios, like I felt pretty comfortable by the second and third hole, but I still was uncomfortable all 3 days, all the way through the first hole, and I just kind of muddled my way through it. But I told him, like, it takes a while to calm down. Mm-hmm. And in the end, he told me he had like a couple of great shots on par 3s, and I said, well, let's anchor that. Let's think about that 100%. You were able to hit the green on 3 or 4 of the par 3s, and you felt good. I said, think about how you did have some moments where you felt yourself. And that's the greatest win is that you teed it up. Most people won't do that. That you completed the round. I never used to. You know, I think of it all the times I walked off golf courses. Like I did it a lot.
Oh,
like,
I know. Yeah.
Embarrassing. like what? A 37-year-old man, 35-year-old man walking off the course after 9 holes in a tournament. Goodbye. I have now done 9. I'm 45 and done.
And now you practice vulnerability by talking about it. That's great. No, it's serious. In all seriousness, it's wonderful that you can talk about it. But boy, we all go through stuff like that. But in a different way, you could say the fun of tournament golf is that your body's in an uproar. In other words, you're excited. You're going to do this thing. You know, that's kind of a reframe on it. But what a great experience to go into something and to be that jacked up and have to do it. That's wonderful.
Yep.
But the other thing too, just to come back to your client and the way is, and we come back to this from time to time. No one cares. No one cares what you shoot or what you do. I remember the very first, I think, real tournament I played in, other than, you know, father and son GAO stuff with my father, was in Myrtle Beach, the Golf Writers Association of America. I had gotten this George Knudson swing trainer thing, and I practiced it dutifully all winter. I go down early April to Myrtle Beach and shoot 111.
Nice. Triple.
And
love that.
And I was just freaking the fuck out. And I went to I just immediately went to the driving range to sort this out. I didn't hand my card in. A guy comes out and goes, "Are you Tim O'Connor?" "Yeah." "Where's your card?" "Here," I give it. And so I finally
it's on a scroll. It's so many numbers. You have to unfurl it.
Exactly. Anyways, I finally go, okay. You know, I finally go into the clubhouse. I see some guys I know at the bar. They don't care. They don't care. And we end up, you know, laughing about our games and what I shot, what they shot. And mainly it was about having a good time, talking about being a golf writer and stories. Oh, but we lose perspective. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make, is that we lose perspective. We think that in essence, what your client was going through and people go through is, quite frankly, at a subconscious level, they think they're going to fucking die with what's going on. And what happens is we get through and go, oh, I didn't die.
Well, just for the record, by the way, if you're paying attention and you're playing, you know, Humble and Tim bingo. For the record, Tim's just hit the fuck hat trick, the first time, I think, in 194 shows that he's gone with the triple header. Pretty impressive stuff from a young fella out of Guelph, Ontario. Just want to finish with a quick story from the GSL files. I had an interesting breakthrough my own self. A couple of days ago, I played around a golf. We were playing a little fun money game with some guys, and I got to give everyone 1,000,000 shots and blah, blah, blah. And I'm playing, and I've got during the round, I have like a 4-foot putt for my par. And it was a long putt. I was like a 55-foot. I started keeping my decade stats. So it was my first round recording, everything I hit. So I know the putt was 55-ish feet because I walk it off. Anyway, I make a nice lag putt up there to about 4 feet, and I'm the last person to putt. Everyone else is putting out, and we're not doing gimmies, which is fine. We're not playing for small money like 10s and 20s. So I go through my thing, and I go to hit the putt, and one of the guys has a power cart, and it goes over a bridge, and I stop. It putts. I can hear the cart as it's going over the bridge, so I stop and I back away, and I get settled again. And I'm about to hit the putt again, and then Buddy's music starts playing. But in true, hit it anyway fashion, I hit it anyway and miss it. But here's what I wanted to share with everyone: is I got mad. I said "fuck" that loudly. Like, if you were within a few holes of that, you would have heard somebody yell. Not at the top, not old school rage, but a pretty good fuck. And here's the breakthrough. I wasn't mad that I missed the putt. Didn't bother me at all. I was mad at myself because I didn't back off again.
Totally.
Because I had already backed off once, so fine. But I was still had enough self-consciousness not to back off again. And I promise you this, if it had been a tournament, I would have. But it was a round of golf with some guys, blah, blah, blah. It's not that important. But it pissed me off that I didn't stick to my guns. I didn't stand for a lower score in that moment because it was a simple putt. It was a right to left. It wasn't that hard a putt. And I just, when the guy's music started playing, I went ahead and hit the putt anyway. And so 2 things. I didn't live my promise to myself, which is why I got mad.
Totally.
I didn't get mad. So anyone watching me would have thought, oh, he's mad because he missed the putt.
Or he's mad at the guy whose music started to play.
Which I was. I got no fucking time for that. I'm sorry. I just don't.
I totally get it.
Time for me. I don't care what your reason for playing music on the golf course is. It's like when a guy drives next to me in a car and their windows are down. Now I'm involved in your musical choices. But I was mad at myself that I didn't have I didn't have enough of a commitment to stop again and start again. But I will say this, the second part is we go to the next tee. It's our 10th hole of the day. And by the time we got there, I'd forgotten that I'd missed the putt. I mean, I literally was so out of my mind because I didn't, that swear that I made, not yelling, by doing it, but I just didn't live it. It wasn't inside me. It was just a moment of, and of course I put on my mental scorecard. I wasn't focused on that. So the moral of the story is GSL still gets mad, but I felt good about it because I'm getting mad at the right things. Because, lots of times in that round, I hit less than perfect golf shots, none of which gave me any pause other than, oh, well, that's interesting. Now I'm left with the green again. You know what I mean?
Oh, very, very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, man, we all go through that stuff of that old stuff that holds, not even in a conscious way. What are they going to think? But we just react in a way, and it doesn't serve us. And you end up being resentful. So what was interesting to me is that that you yelling was, in essence, being mad at yourself. And most of the times that we do get angry, it's our own stuff. It's not the person we think it is. It's our own effing stuff.
But there's the STDs listeners are just like us. Like, I've gotten mad at a shot lots and lots of times. But in my past, it's always been a misplaced anger, which is why after all the practice I did, why do I still pull hook shots? And as I told my guy yesterday, I said, listen, dude, as far as fixing your pull hook, I said, you're a good player. You're going to pull hook shots. I told him the story of, being in the 1997 Canadian Amateur, my very first shot, I pull hook it so far left that while the ball's in the air, the starter said, "Will you be hitting another one, Mr. Glassman?" I'm like, "Let the fucking thing land." It was so left. He didn't even need to see it land. My point is, pull hooking shots isn't the problem. It's what you do after you've done it, and knowing that. Did you pull hook it because you were, not focused and ready, or did you pull hook it because, hey, sometimes that happens? That variance is going to show up in everyone's golf swing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, my first tee shot of 2020 off grass at Blue Springs on Saturday was a slice into a pond.
What?
And I went, "What's going on here?" And I realized I was rushing because everyone had bailed on the guys in my round because it was 6 degrees and
Yes, of
very
course.
windy, etc. And I decided, well, I'll just go. And I want to play by myself. I decided I just want to play by myself.
Nice.
So there's some guys in a cart and they were dicking around, and so I sliced it into the pond and went, "Oh, Tim, slow down."
What's pond though on first hole of? There's a pond there.
Well, it's kind of, sort of. When it gets in the summer and there's more rain, it's like marshy stuff off there. You can't really see it on the right because it's so far
Oh, I
right.
see. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
So, anyways, I realized I banged this one off into the right, and I went, "Oh, Tim, slow down. Goodness, you don't need to rush these guys. And even if they joined you, it wouldn't be the end of the world, anyways." So I just relaxed. I was aware what was going on. Pow! I just hit this really nice drive straight down the gut. It's part of the game is what happens to us, and it doesn't mean because I sliced my first drive of 2022 into the pond. That's not a metaphor for how the year's going to go.
No, but that's what we think. Well, that's my year. That's
the
whole year.
Or the day's ruined.
Yeah, this day's ruined. 2022 is ruined. Anyway, thanks to not trained as a psychologist, David Glassman, but a man that has studied. Thanks to Tim O'Connor. Tim O'Connor and Nate Robinson are working together, and you should work with them. Something called Quiet Mind Golf. Listen, man, if you're not, using, Tim and Nate, you're not taking advantage of the accumulated knowledge of all the ages. What is there still room for people to sign up?
Absolutely. We're moving into our second month, but everything is if you come in now or you come in halfway through and near the end, you're going to get full value for it because everything just keeps rolling forward. We're always reaffirming, going back to things, just building, progressing. And I think you should also consider becoming a DD, becoming a decade dude with the DS, the Decade Sherpa. We have the acronyms going today.
Yes, we do, you weirdo. Tim O'Connor.
You
Golf.
weirdo. I love it. What's this, grade 6 in the schoolyard? You're a weirdo.
You're weird.
I'm not.
All right. O'ConnorGolf.ca. Don't forget the Humble and Fred Show. Like and subscribe. HumbleandFred.com. And I've got about I've got a good group of guys that I'm really interested in how they're doing. I find it. I've told you this before off this show, but I really do find it weirdly, fun and gratifying and interesting. And I said that to Doolin. I said, man, I'm really relearning a lot of stuff by having to listen to other people and what they're going through, and I so relate to it, and it just reaffirms what we've been talking about for 5 or 6, 7 years now, that we're all the same. And just because, my scores might be lowered, all the same stuff. And just because, a guy that shoots in the 80s can shoot in the hundreds, we're all going through the same things because it's such as David said, we identify as golfers, not as guys that play golf.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well said.
All right. Well,
young man, and you are a young man.
Well, yeah. When is your birthday?
It was a week ago today.
Did I fet you properly? I think I said.
You did, yeah, and it caused us because you played the Beatles' birthday. It got blocked by the copyright protection, so it didn't get on YouTube. Oh,
no!
Why?
All of the 4 viewers. All right. Well, O'Connor was 65 last week, and he'll be 65 again next week. We'll see you all. Oh, by the way, thanks to Jonathan Wong, Apparel, JWApparelinc.com. And don't forget, we're going to be getting some people on from TaylorMade, but I can tell you, every year these clubs get better and better. And if you're not using TaylorMade Golf, you're not using the best clubs that are being made currently. Visit TaylorMadeGolf.ca.
Coming in out of the rain, they hear the jazz go down. Competition